Good afternoon and welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. This is going to be our only show this week with Easter coming up. The Masters is going to start on Thursday. So this is going to be our only show. So we're going to kind of wrap up the previous weekend in sports and look ahead to what's coming this week in sports. So it should be fun. We are live, as always, from downtown Youngstown at Youngstown Studios. Joe Danier is with me, sort of. He is in how many hours?
50.
50 hours into a fast. I don't remember the last time I went 50 hours without eating substantial food. So I would imagine you're running low on
energy,
yeah.
And mental clarity.
Yeah. How long is this fast gonna?
It was supposed to be a 48-hour, but I'm gonna try to push it to 72.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I mean, you're almost there.
Almost.
You're 2/3 of the way there. Right. So, okay. All right. Well, good luck. Because in this segment, not in this segment, but in a little bit with the Masters, we got a big food segment coming up. So that should hopefully
and
make
honestly,
it
by
easy.
this point, I'm not even hungry.
Really?
If you put spaghetti in front of me, I'd probably be like, I forget what that's even like.
So during a fast,
yes.
you're allowed to drink water,
black coffee, and tea.
Okay. And is this for I've done some like juice cleanses and stuff like that, but like what's the overall goal of the fast?
So I do immune system. I hate being sick.
Okay.
Right. And so I go through all these processes. Like when everybody gets sick around me,
Uh-huh.
I go into all kind of supplements and I take all kinds of food to keep me healthy. And then as soon as everybody gets well again, I do a fast to build my immune system back up afterwards. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. We hope you make it through, and we'll see you tomorrow at this time. You'll be eating like a big burger or something, or do you go back to the healthy, like salad?
Well, it takes a good day and a half because when you start eating food, you feel like you're going to throw up, and it really hits your digestive system.
Okay.
Not be gross or anything.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Okay. All right. Duly noted. So that's good. All right. Well, we'll get into a little bit of sports, especially last night. We had the men's championship game. So the Final Four this past weekend, UConn knocked off Miami on Saturday night, and San Diego State at the buzzer, first time ever in the Final Four, won on a game winner when a team was behind. So they were able to knock out number 9 seed Florida Atlantic and get to the championship game. And UConn really last night, you could just see they were the class of that game. They just dominated really from start to finish. San Diego State, a great defensive team, but just didn't have kind of the firepower to hang with UConn, who really was the class of this tournament. So UConn, I think, now has earned a blue blood check mark. And I'm going to explain what a blue blood is here in a minute. But let's go over their resume in the last 24 years. So this is their 5th title since 1999, which is the most in college basketball. I don't even think it's close. They were 17-0 versus non-Big East teams this season. So pretty impressive when they're playing out of conference. They won by an average of 20 points per game this NCAA tournament, which is 4th best all time. And they have had 3 straight head coaches that have won a national title. So Jim Calhoun, who took over, I believe, in like 1987 in UConn, for UConn. UConn was kind of a laughingstock, a joke when he took over. They won the NIT. They finally won the Big East. And then 13 years into his tenure, they won the first NCAA championship in 1999 to beat Duke. Ohio State was actually in that Final Four, if I remember right. UConn knocked off Ohio State and knocked off Duke in that Final Four. Jim Calhoun was the head coach of that team. Then 5 years later, 2004, they beat Georgia Tech in the Final Four in championship game. Jim Calhoun also the head coach of that team. And then in 2011, they beat Butler, and that was also Jim Calhoun. 3 years later, Kevin Ollie takes over after Jim Calhoun retires. He didn't have a long run at UConn, but he did win a national title. And then about 9 years later, Hurley takes over and, kind of works his way up the rank and, has a really nice career and is just, one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. So the last 3 head coaches for UConn have won national titles. Not many programs can say that. So pretty impressive run by UConn. Not many people would have thought this 4 seed would have won. I saw a lot of people had them losing to Iona in the first round, but a great run. And again, winning by an average of 20 points per game this tournament. So, Joe, if I had to ask you what the definition of blue blood meant, what do you think it means?
I'm going to say like a traditionalist, someone who's like ingrained with the history of something.
Yeah. And that's like, you're kind of right on point. So it actually comes from like a, I believe it's like a European type thing where it's like of noble birth. So they used to call those people blue bloods with, like traditional families and stuff like that within probably the monarchy or whatever it might be. So by my count before last night, there were 5 blue bloods: UCLA, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, and Kansas. So I believe with UConn winning last night, they could be in that upper echelon of the 6 best teams in all of college basketball, the 6 elite programs. Now, if we're talking college football, we're talking Ohio State, we're talking Alabama, we're talking Georgia, probably talking Clemson and maybe Notre Dame. Those are probably your 5 in the blue bloods there. I'm probably missing 1 or 2, but those are your traditional powerhouses there. Now, if you had to pick 3 others, I would say right now, even though maybe necessarily a lot of these teams haven't done well, Villanova's done really well lately, but Indiana and Michigan State haven't done a whole lot lately, but their history, would put them in there. And if it's kind of interesting if you notice blue bloods and all the teams have some sort of blue in their logo, which is, just kind of neat, I think there. But your Gonzaga Bulldogs, Joe, I think once they win a national title, they can be in that next, they could move right in there in the top 10 of college programs. So we'll see. But I think they're right in that Indiana, Villanova, Michigan State, Gonzaga. I think they're right there. And they've kind of been a blue blood regular season program, just haven't got over that hurdle in the NCAA tournament. But
the wound is still very fresh, my friend.
It cost you a bottle of Blanton's too.
Too.
I was ready to purchase it, but UConn just whooped them in the Elite 8. So, want to again give UConn a lot of credit. They've done a great job. Storrs, Connecticut is not a necessarily a household name. It's not it's not. If you're going to Texas, that's in Austin. If you're going to Ohio State, that's in Columbus. If you're even thinking like UCLA, USC, those are in LA. St. John's in New York City. Even Miami of Florida, that's a big metropolitan city. Whereas Storrs, Connecticut, I believe the nearest biggest city might be like Hartford, which is not a huge city. But so what they've done to draw recruits there, get some big name talent to come through their doors and produce both the men's and women's programs. They deserve a lot of credit for that. So Adama Sanogo, Jordan Hawkins, Tristan Newton, Alex Caravan, Donovan Klingon, Andre Jackson Jr., Joey Calatiera, and I believe it's Naheem Aliane. Did a phenomenal job in this tournament. The better players in this tournament for them. Iona, St. Mary's, Arkansas, Gonzaga, Miami, and San Diego State were the teams they knocked off on the way. So credit to them. Joe, speaking of fasting, UConn's best player during this tournament, his name is Adama Sanogo, which is obviously sounds very foreign, but he is a practicing Muslim. So this is interesting. Leads the team to a championship and is named the most outstanding player in all of the tournament while in the midst of fasting during Ramadan. So from like when the sun is out, I don't believe he's allowed to eat or drink anything. And so like even during games, he was not drinking any water, Gatorade, nothing. So pretty impressive there.
Yeah.
You know, so
Dedicated.
like very dedicated. So I don't know if you can imagine playing a basketball game, not only just playing in it, being your team's best player and not being able to like eat or drink. Like just think of the energy level like you're lacking, but he found the will to get through it, and very, very impressive stuff. So all right, let's check in real quick with the women's Final Four. Now, you could argue the women's Final Four this year, I believe they had 10 million viewers for the Final Four, which like blew away like any NBA game this year, which blew away like most Major League Baseball games and stuff like that. So the LSU women end up getting the title this year. So they win, they knock off Iowa. LSU knocked off Virginia Tech to get there. Iowa knocked off the undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks to get to the championship game, and LSU ends up winning. Now, here's where the controversy comes in, because Caitlin Clark was this year's most outstanding player in women's college hoops. In the tournament this year, she also had the most points in an NCAA tournament. Excuse me. Lose my voice, with 193. The most assists in a women's tournament was 60. The most threes in a game with 8, and ended South Carolina's 42 game winning streak. Now, she has this quiet confidence about her, but she would occasionally do some of these wrestling things where she would do like one of these where like kind of like not showing up an opponent, but I think like being a little bit cocky. And some people didn't necessarily rub people the wrong way like throughout the tournament. However, LSU's best player, Gabby Reese, or Angel Reese, excuse me, did the same thing and pointed to her finger, her ring finger, saying like, "Hey, you know, you're ringing me." You know, so this was a very contentious issue on Facebook. And here's my opinion of this. This is just my opinion. Some people are going to get pissed off at me for saying this, but I don't think there was any problem with either player doing that, as long as you're not like going right up and taunting the player directly. Now, if you're gonna talk, that's one thing. If that's in your mantra, if that's in your personality, I think if that's what gets your blood flowing, that's fine. There was some really bad officiating in this game, and Caitlin Clark ended up getting a technical for like rolling a ball away, which was ridiculous. LSU's coach was like coaching on the court and ran into an official. She didn't even get teed up for that, which was ridiculous. But my question to you, Joe, is the LSU player who's doing the hey, you can't see me and pointing at the ring, to arguably the tournament's best player. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the people who are pissed off have obviously never sat close enough to the players. Basketball is a lot of psychology, right? If you can get in the head of somebody, you can dominate them without even doing anything on the court. I mean, so let me ask the question to you.
Yeah.
Basketball coach, if you saw any of your players talking smack, would you reprimand or would you give?
You know what? And I've actually had to deal with this in the past before too. I think there's a time and place for all of that. I think at the high school level is very different from the college level. And this is also a national championship game. So there's something to be said about winning with class and doing it the right way. Now, I don't think her doing that was like extremely disrespectful. But because Caitlin Clark also did it. Now, here's where it becomes contentious. They were praising Caitlin Clark, who happens to be a white female athlete who has kind of changed the women's game. She plays like Steph Curry. She shoots, 25, 30-foot threes. She's scoring 40 points a game. She's dropping a ton of assists, versus then the LSU player who does the same thing, but she is black. And then it's like, well, that's not very classy. So to me, I don't think this is a race thing. I think it was just happenstance of more people watch this game, but I could see how people could draw that opinion. So, without having seen all of the games, I don't know both of their personalities super well. But to me, I don't think it's a race issue. I think it's more of a competitive happenstance, during the game. So,
but we're so polarized that everything
Mhm.
comes down to that race.
It
or
is,
whatever.
and literally, like when you say it's black or white, a lot of times people will. It's like Democrat, Republican. It's like voting party lines, and unfortunately, that's how things should not be. But sometimes that's unfortunately how it
reasonable
is.
people like us, we just reject it.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm all for a little bit of competitive, fun trash talk. You don't want it to go to the level where there's fighting or anything like that. But I think if there's a little bit of smack talk within the game, I think it makes for fun as long as you're respectful when the game's over and you're playing your hardest and there's no cheap shots and stuff like that. So,
hey, do you want something to drink, by the way? Water or bourbon or anything?
I always will do bourbon.
Okay.
I will never turn down bourbon. So, speaking of fasting, but that's where I'll kind of close the book on that. But let me know your opinion if you want to weigh in on that. But I think Reese or Clark both weren't necessarily in the wrong. I think it's just a way, to draw up some headlines and stuff like that. So we'll close the book on that. So, but an overall great weekend of basketball, both in women's hoops and in men's hoops. And hats off to the women's teams too, because they were very entertaining versions of basketball, which I think if you said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if more people might be drawn to the women's Final Four than the men's, there'd be a lot of people laughing. But as a former female coach, I think that is really cool to see the uplifting in the women's game of basketball. So congratulations to LSU.
If Gonzaga made it, it would have set all-time high viewership.
Mm-hmm. Sure. They draw a lot of. Actually, they're from a big market. They're from the Seattle area, so you never know.
They lost out.
They did. All right. So it is Masters Week, and that means a lot of guys are going to be playing some practice rounds this week. There's the par 3 competition tomorrow, which if you have not seen the par 3 competition, it's one of the most fun things I think in all of sports. A lot of times the little kids are the caddies, like their kids, their son or daughter, and they're wearing these baggy uniforms that the caddies would wear. It's the most beautiful course out there, and it's just a fun week. For me, I always say it's kind of like a rite of passage to spring. We know when the Masters gets here, the final happens to be on Easter Sunday. So it's just like a nice transition from like, hopefully we're done with any, cold weather, winter. And like, this officially we're into spring now. So with that said, tonight is what's called the Champions Dinner. So since Joe's fasting, we're going to make him answer all of these questions.
Okay.
So the Masters Club dinner, I'm going to walk you through each item and then give me your item that you would have as that, on that course. So let's start with an app. You get to pick 2 appetizers. So last year's winner, Scotty Scheffler, picked cheeseburger sliders and firecracker shrimp with sweet Thai chili and sriracha mayo. So those were his 2 appetizers. What would you pick as 2 appetizers for you?
Well, I'd go with the shrimp. That sounds amazing. And I'd also go with Brussels sprouts with sriracha.
Oh, okay. Nice. So you're getting a little spice in there.
Yeah,
okay.
Spice.
All right. Then kind of the next course, which is your salad or your soup.
Are you not going to say yours?
I
need to know yours.
Well, you know what? I wasn't prepared to answer these. And since you're going through it fast, this is more fun for me to ask rather than answer. So I'll answer next year during this segment. But the next is the salad or the soup. So he went with the soup, and he went with a tortilla soup with avocado, crispy blue tortilla strips, sour cream, cilantro, and lime. So your next super salad, what would that be?
All right, I'm going with soup and something seafoody like a chowder.
Okay.
Go with the clam chowder.
Okay. And you got to remember too, the Masters is down south. And
so it's gonna be good.
Oh yeah. And Scotty Scheffler too went to the University of Texas, so he's kind of like a Southern boy. So there's going to be a lot of probably like some Southern charm in this food here too.
I'm going to change a couple of my answers. I know it now.
Okay, all right. So the next one, you get to pick your main course. So his main course, he's going Texas ribeye steak, or I think you get like the seafood option. So you can, I'll let you pick. You can either go meat or fish for yours. So he went Texas ribeye steak or blackened redfish. So family style mac and cheese also with that, jalapeno cream corn, fried Brussels sprouts, seasoned French fries. So those were his options for his dinner. What would your main options be? And you can go both meat and fish if you want.
Give both.
Okay, all right.
I'm going with jambalaya. And
nice.
For the seafood option, of course, you got to go with the shrimp or crawdad or whatever. And then I'm going to go extra sausage on the meat version of the jambalaya.
Okay. All right. I love it. And with the jambalaya, you're getting both that.
That's exactly.
You're getting the sausage and you're getting the shrimp and fish in there. I love it. Love it. All right. And then your dessert. He's going with a warm chocolate chip skillet cookie served with milk and cookies ice cream.
Wasn't expecting that one.
No, nice little twist there.
Creme brulee. I like the creme brulee.
Does creme brulee have coffee in it?
It may.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or what am I thinking of? Tiramisu. Tiramisu is what I'm thinking of. What is creme brulee? I'm not
creme
familiar.
Creme brulee is like a pudding, and then it has like a sugar coating on it that they fire over with a flame.
Okay. I think at some point we should we'll have to do the Youngstown version of this menu. So I think that would be kind of neat. So, all right. So that's the champions dinner, which, before there's been, champions from Japan, and they have a very like Japanese regimented meal. There's been like straight up American, as American as it gets, and they've done like cheeseburgers and French fries, so it's like, and the only people invited to that are previous champions that are obviously alive of the Masters, which is pretty cool, so it's at a very exclusive club.
Do they meet on the 9th green, by the way?
The 9th green at 9:00. Yeah. Especially if you don't have that green jacket, they're going to invite you, for sure. 9th green at 9. Don't forget, be there or be square. I found this picture on social media. Now, I have never been to Augusta National. However, I do know several people that have. Now, you can go there with $10 or $20. Now, it's not cheap to get in there, or you have to know someone, or all the different things. However, once you get your tickets, it's not cheap. You could eat and drink all day for like $20. So let me walk you through this menu a little bit. Egg salad, pimento cheese, pork barbecue, Masters Club, chicken salad on honey wheat, ham and cheese on rye, classic chicken. Then they got breakfast foods. You got your coffee, you got your chicken biscuit, breakfast sandwich, blueberry muffin, fresh mixed fruit. And then you got your drinks, your wines, your beer, your soft drinks. And then you got snacks, barbecue and plain chips, peanuts, southern cheese straws, cookies, Georgia pecan pie with caramel popcorn. And I mean, it's especially, by the way, Joe is going on during his fast, so we are trying to torture him as much as possible. But that is kind of like what their snack line is. But if you look at those prices look like they're from like 1990, don't they?
Yeah.
Like very, very early on. So you can literally go $20. Let's see, what's a domestic beer, $5. So you have like 3-4, let's say you have 3 beers, and you can get like a sandwich and a snack for less than $20. So pretty awesome there. And if you really like pimento cheese or egg salad, you could have 10 pimento cheese sandwiches for $11.
Nobody wants that. Nobody.
That might be a little too much there, but you could really do a lot of damage, good or bad, depending on where you want to go with that. So that's a look at the Masters. Should be a blast. We have a couple golf related guests coming on in the near future. And one of those golfers actually got to play at the Masters this weekend. Phenomenal. She is local. She was the youngest player in that tournament, Gianna Clemente. I spoke with her dad over the weekend. She was in contention in this. She was the youngest player in the field. She's 15 years old. So she is a true women's amateur in high school. She's from Howland, and I'll get all the details on what she's doing now. But I mean, it was really cool to see like Mike Tirico, who's one of the best commentators in sports, talking about Gianna Clemente this weekend at the Masters, a local girl, and she's doing amazing things. So we will let you know when that show is coming on. But obviously, she was a little bit busy these past couple weeks preparing for that tournament with good reason, and she's killing it. We also have a couple other golfers that will be preparing us for the upcoming golf season, which I'm sure a lot of people are out on the courses today because it's a beautiful, beautiful day. So April 4th, 1994. Let's go back in this day in history. Jacobs Field opens. So the first game in Cleveland Indians history, now obviously the Cleveland Guardians, took place at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario in Cleveland at then Jacobs Field. Dennis Martinez was the pitcher that threw out the first pitch, and the Indians won that game. Randy Johnson was the pitcher for the Mariners. And ironically, this week, the Seattle Mariners, 29 years later, will be opening against the Indians at home in Cleveland. So pretty cool.
I would have never, if you'd have said, when did Jacobs Field open? I wouldn't have said 94.
1994.
Yeah. It feels like it was forever.
It does. But like the really good thing they have done with baseball, with the baseball stadium there, they've put a lot of money into it, but they've done it the right way. That stadium is, I would say, better now than it was when it first opened up, just like the conveniences and all the amenities around the stadium. You know, obviously, I'm sure there's some areas that need touched up with paint and this and that, but it's still a beautiful stadium. I would say still one of the top 5 to 10 stadiums in all of baseball. So
now,
just really cool.
If the Browns decide to go with a dome and they combined the Indians or the Guardians in that, would you want the baseball to be played in a dome?
No, not baseball. Not baseball. Football, I'm all for it. I know football, a lot of traditionalists are saying football should be played outdoors, and it actually looks like they will not be building a dome as of now, but you know, things can obviously change. But I really hope if they do build a new stadium in Cleveland, it has a dome on it, at least for football. Baseball, whatever. But you know, I like the open air aspect of baseball, and where Progressive Field now is located, it's not right on the lake either. So you're not getting those like biting wind chills that are like right off the lake and just extra cold. And obviously baseball is mostly played in the spring, summer, and fall, whereas football's played in like, you know, late summer, fall, and then obviously the winter, which in Cleveland can go on for a long, long time. But
I'm with you though, that I think that stadium, that field is the nicest that I've ever been in.
Yeah,
really nice.
We are very lucky with where we're at. You go 60 miles to Pittsburgh or 60 miles to Cleveland, you have 2 beautiful stadiums. Pittsburgh, a lot of people would say, is maybe the nicest in all of baseball. And you know, just both stadiums, the backdrop is beautiful. You can kind of look at the downtown. But yeah, PNC Park in Pittsburgh and Progressive, either way, you can't go wrong with either of those stadiums. So speaking of the Guardians, they are 4-1 through the first 5 games. They actually lost opening night. Remember I said we predicted the score 4-3. I did get one part of the score right.
The 3 part.
Yeah.
The 4 is what we were hoping for.
Yeah, the 4 is not what we got. But since then they did get 4 victories. Last night with a big 12-11 victory at Oakland. Oakland, by the way, I will say, I'm going to put this on record. The next professional sports team to move will be the Oakland Athletics. In any sport, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Oakland A's need to be retracted, moved, whatever. They get no crowds in that stadium. We were talking about the best stadiums in baseball. That is the worst. So just my opinion, but I think the Oakland A's are probably on the chopping block to be moved to a Vegas, a Nashville, a Portland, a Seattle, one of those cities, or not Seattle, but a Portland, to one of those cities that really wants a baseball team in their town and will support it, because Oakland ain't doing the job. And San Francisco is 10 miles away from Oakland, right across the bridge there. And, San Francisco has these great, amazing crowds, but Oakland just can't compete with that. By all accounts, the pitch clock in Major League Baseball has been working amazing. It's trimmed on average about 25 minutes per game. And like you said last week, you said, now you might be interested in going to a game. Now you're not going to be sitting there for 3.5, 4 hours. Now you might be there at most 3 hours. The Guardians played a game this weekend that was 2 hours and 4 minutes. So, nice. Pretty awesome. So it's very comparable to like a basketball game now, where there's constant movement, constant action going on. I like it right there in that 2 to 2.5 hour range. I think is perfect. Because baseball, you can still do other things. You don't have to always be locked in on every pitch unless it's like a playoff game or something. So I think this has been going pretty well. And you can appeal this to the younger, kids, a younger generation that are so used to be locked in on their phones, that are so easily distracted. Now, there's constant action. Like there's the pitches are happening. There's more running. There's more balls in play, stuff like that. So I think this is going to be good for baseball as a whole. So,
and you're right. Our attention span has shrunk.
Mine included.
I was at Sheetz the other day waiting on my food, and I was watching the lottery machine, and I counted how many people bought scratch offs and actually scratched them off versus scratching the bottom off and just have the machine tell them if they won. What do you think percentage wise?
How many people bought tickets, roughly?
Well, we'll go about 10.
Okay. I'm going to say 80%.
50% of the people just didn't even bother scratching it. They just want to see if they won.
Yeah.
That's half the fun.
I mean, seriously. It's like a little game. It's like you're taking the fun out of it. So you're just basically...
What if you put 10 in there, hit a button, it said you lose?
Let me just tell you this, people. If you want to give me $100, I will give you $50 back.
Boom.
And you don't have to play the lottery.
That's right.
And you're probably coming out on top. Or like they said in Vegas Vacation, why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? I'll take you out back, kick you in the nuts. We'll call it a day. you're coming out on top. Yep. So,
the best.
Oh man, love it. So the Cavs, let's switch to them real quick. Tuesday and Thursday this week. So tonight and Thursday at the Orlando Magic, and then Easter Sunday at home to close out the season versus the Charlotte Hornets. That is it for the regular season. All 82 games will then be complete. So looking at the record month by month, they have been no worse than 500 in every month. 9-5 last month in March, 1-0 so far this month in April, with 3 games left to play. This season, 49-30, 31-9 at home, 18-21 on the road, with 2 road games to go. So hopefully they can get it to 20-21 versus the East, 32-17 versus the West, 17-30 and 7-0 in overtime games. It's not 100% locked in yet, but it's I would say about 90% sure the Cavs and the Knicks will match up in the 4-5 matchup in the Eastern Conference playoffs, which means the Cavs will have home court advantage and should be able to be the favorite in that series. By no means is it a gimme, but the Cavs should hopefully be able to win that series. I would say they would be a slight favorite against the Knicks in that series. Now, here's a couple did you knows. This is a pretty cool stat. The Cavs lead the league in dunks as a team and have the top 2 dunkers in the league with Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and then Rudy Gobert and Giannis Antetokounmpo is right up there in the top 4. Thank you. I'm like getting a little bit better at my vernacular and whatnot. So I'm working on the speech. So here's another couple did you knows. The Cavs' main rotational players. So that includes your starters, your Evan Mobley's, your Donovan Mitchell's, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, players like that. Their main rotational players have played in 82 games total and have 0 NBA titles combined. The non-rotational players, that's players like Jetty Osman and his name's escaping me, the shooter they just brought in, Danny Green, have played in a combined 235 playoff games and have 4 NBA titles. And the longest tenured Cavs player, believe it or not, is Jetty Osman, which is crazy. He was a rookie the final year of LeBron James. So some interesting stuff there. And then one more interesting note about the NBA season. Scoring has been super high this year, super high. There are maybe more talented NBA players right now in the NBA than there ever has been before. There are 45 players in the NBA this season averaging 20 points per game or more. In 2020, in 2013, there were only 11 players. Of those 45 players, 7 of them averaged 30 points or more per game. So let's hit the let's hit the Marty McFly button and go back to the future a little bit here. So 10 years ago, or I guess 9 seasons ago, 11 players averaged 20 or more points a game. Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, LeBron, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, Dwayne Wade, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Tony Parker. Those were the players that averaged 20 points per game or more. This year, there are 7 that average 30 or more, which is insane. Joel Embiid, Luka, Damian Lillard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're just going to call him SGA for short. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Say that 3 times fast. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and LeBron James. There are a ton more guys that average over 25 points a game. Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, John Morant, Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, Lauri Markkanen, Julius Randle, DeAndre Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikola Jokic. Those are the players that average 25 or more. I'm not going to read all these names, but these are the guys that average between 20 and 24.7 points a game. So that is a huge list. Look how, that is the 3rd page of that list, which is insane. So 45 players this year average more than 20 points a game, which is just crazy. So that's our little look at the NBA.
How can Gonzaga only score 52 points?
Well, against UConn.
52?
Yeah. Well, they have Drew Timme, who I know it was only his 4th year of college, but seemed like he's been there for like 22 years. He looks like he's a 45-year-old man. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. But maybe Gonzaga's back next year. We'll see. They're good year in, year out. So maybe next year we'll put another bottle of Blanton's on the line. We'll see. All right. So, Joe, I know you're not a huge TV watcher. Yeah. But as the weather has been kind of weird, and I'm like, obviously I think a lot of people know I had a son about 11 weeks ago now, and so my going out times are not as frequent as they used to be. So usually I'm at home, I try to get a workout in, do this or that, and then at the end of the night I will sit down and watch something or a couple things. And if it's not sports related, I made up a list of just things I'm either looking forward to or watching currently or have watched recently. But before I go over my list, is there anything you're watching right now or have watched recently that is worth, sharing?
So I started watching Last of Us. That ended up being really good.
Excellent show.
And then that 1928.
I started
watching that too.
Okay.
But that's about it right now.
Is that the one, the Yellowstone spinoff?
Yep.
Okay. And that's with Harrison Ford and stuff?
Right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that looked pretty good. I have not seen that one. The Last of Us. I am not someone that is a zombie person or anything like that, but that show is good.
Heck yeah.
Well made. and it's based off a video game, which is like interesting because it kind of parallels the story and they interweave some different plot points. But that show is well done, great acting, and the way they started that show. Remember, like that talk show at the beginning where they're like, if the Earth's climate like raises a couple degrees, like these cordyceps, is that what they're called? Well, it could like infect, and basically these people that study like fungus and all this stuff like said if it ever gets into the human system and can like spread and become like a COVID type situation, there's no hope. So it kind of gives like a scary parallel to COVID that just happened. So if you have not seen it, The Last of Us on HBO, great show. So I definitely co-sign that comment. So here's a few things I put on my list.
And for all of you listening, Justin is a great show picker. Everything he's ever recommended, I thought, dang, this is good.
I try to have like a good mix of stuff, like, like outside of sports and stuff. Like I do really like movies and good TV shows. So what the best show that people recommend to me all the time that I still have not seen is Succession. I have not seen an episode of that. The season 4, which is the final season, just came out. So I'm hoping to catch up to that in the next few months and, kind of be on the same page with the people that are, talking about it and whatnot. So,
what frustrates me about shows right now is there's so many production houses that are putting out so much stuff.
So much content.
Some of it's just so garbagey. It feels like a student, theater person put it together.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll get frustrated. I'll try to watch something I never heard of before and think, this is rubbish.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then sometimes you get good shows that are lost in the mix that people don't ever know about. Like, I didn't even know about Severance until like around Christmas, and that came out last April. And that was one of the best shows of the year.
Yep,
so just such good stuff. There's a show right now called CB Strike. Very good. It's like kind of a detective mystery, man, woman, and it just like works in their life stories, but also with some mysteries. Very good stuff. Ted Lasso, which a lot of people love, English soccer, Premier League stuff. Jason Sudeikis is the main character. Good stuff there. Barry, if you have not seen Barry, it is kind of a comedy at first, turns into a drama, and it almost turns into like a violent dramedy, I guess you would call it, but a really, really good show. The main actor from SNL, and so you always think of him, and I forget his name right now. But you think of him in a comedy mode, but he plays a serious badass character. And the Fonz is one of the main characters on the show, Henry Winkler. So that's a good one. Yellow Jackets is another one I highly recommend. This one takes place, actually, it starts out in 1996, and a high school girls soccer team like goes to nationals, and their plane crashes in the wilderness, like a couple hundred miles north of Seattle, and they basically have to survive. And without giving too much away, it takes you back to what happened then, which is a big mystery, and it takes you to the current day and who's alive, who's not.
I feel like that movie's already been made. Did they eat each other's butts by chance? Did they?
There is some cannibalism in it. I will say that.
Okay.
There is some cannibalism in it without giving too much away. But a very great cast in that, with a lot of good like 90s Christina Ricci and like the girl that played Audrey Griswold in Christmas Vacation. So a lot of really good actors and actresses in that show too. And then I'm going to just give one more. The documentary, and the Murdaugh family. If you know anything about this Murdaugh guy, this attorney from South Carolina, he is effing nuts. And that is no joke. A lot of people ended up like a lot of stuff getting covered up. Some murders, including his own wife and his own son, housekeeper, random couple people within the town. And it is wild. So definitely recommend that Netflix that documentary on that. So do you know anything about that Murdaugh stuff?
Deb was watching it, so I was halfway watching it with her, and the dude, it's about that dude who owned the town pretty much owned the town.
Yeah,
high powered attorney. Yeah, that was evil.
And I think in some levels, some small town people probably know somewhat. I mean, they might not be a murderer, but they know people like this who skirt the law a lot. But this guy skirted it and stole money and literally got away with murder until he didn't. So very, very highly recommended. So CB Strike, Ted Lasso, Yellow Jackets, Barry, Succession, the Murdaugh stuff, and obviously Joe and I talked about The Last of Us. So good. So that's just kind of what we're looking forward to. This is going to be our last show until next week. So everyone out there, have a happy Easter. Enjoy the Masters, enjoy the Guardians, enjoy all kinds of baseball. This is a great time of year. So everyone out there, have a great day, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content.